Marcus Aurelius believed in the Stoic idea that he was a global citizen. He believed that because human beings share in reason, every human on earth is part of a global community. He believed this, yet he spent 12 years at war massacring the Germanic tribes of Northern Europe. How do we account for this blatant hypocrisy? And how does Stoicism justify war? Cato the Younger's first distinguishing duty was as an officer against Spartacus during the Third Servile War. Here was a man who preferred ending his own life over living for a second under the tyranny of Julius Caesar. Yet he fought against slaves who were just trying to be free from tyranny themselves. He refused to compromise on something that would avoid a civil war, yet he seemed more than willing to compromise on this global citizen thing in order to go to war to kill slaves who simply didn't want to live as someone else's property. Even Epictetus, who lived as a slave until his 30s, only vocalized how to be free mentally if you find your body in chains. He highlighted how all these distinguished people who aren't technically slaves are still slaves to their desires, to women, to power. He mentioned that we have control over our minds, but that what happens to our body is in the care of the gods. What he didn't mention was that people probably shouldn't be enslaved to begin with. Is this a contradiction in Stoicism? How can you believe you are fellow citizens, follow the rules that say no murder, and yet go to war and slaughter people who are just from a different culture as you, who you're aware follow reason? I have a few hypotheses. One reason could be duty. Marcus Aurelius didn't even want to be emperor. He wanted to be a philosopher. While in training to be the Big E, his tutor Fronto told him, "Even if you achieve the wisdom of Zeno and Cleanthes, the founders of Stoicism, you would still be obliged, whether you liked it or not, to wear the purple imperial cloak and not that of the philosophers." Marcus recognized that his destiny called him to the position of emperor, and he completed his task better than nearly anyone in history. His duty as an emperor meant he needed to maintain the empire, which involved defending her borders against armies that Rome had conquered. Maybe he thought that if this is the role the universe gave him, this is the role that he had to play. As Avatar Yang Chen advises Avatar Aang,
selfless duty calls you to sacrifice your own spiritual needs and do whatever it takes to protect the world.
could there be another reason for this seeming contradiction? I can think of one, and it involves the Stoic belief that the purpose of life is that a human should follow nature. For this example, we'll look to the Netflix documentary Chimp Empire to see what nature looks like for chimpanzees. Life for these creatures that have 98.8% the same DNA as we do involves mostly power dynamics between chimps, and they also eat a lot of fruit. These chimps have a territory that has been secured by their tribe, and patrolling the borders is a dangerous but necessary business. The ape tribes outside of their borders are a violent bunch, hell-bent on securing more territory. In order to prevent themselves from losing ground, our protagonists of Ingogo act swiftly and decisively to drive off any intruders. Chimpanzees live according to their nature, and they have borders and skirmishes with other chimpanzees that are just like them. If there were no humans around to watch them, these chimpanzees would go on fighting in their border wars, as that's the way life is. That's their nature. These chimps have power struggles and dynamics within their groups, just like we do, and they also have a default instinct to defend to the death their frontiers. Defending territory comes completely naturally to them. Maybe war against other tribes, cultures, nations is as human nature as the need for social bonding. Maybe unless the entire world is enlightened, we will have to continuously have war, because whatever tribe isn't enlightened and is hungry for blood, they will wipe the floor with the enlightened tribes. Maybe looking out for the betterment of only your tribe is the only functional way to do it, and sometimes that involves going to war against others. That's all that I can think of. But what do you think? How does Stoicism justify war or slavery without contradicting itself?